Hi everybody, and welcome back. Thanks for the positive response to my previous video. Just thought I'd show you a few little tricks that I've worked out with this rope code that can increase the options a little bit and allow you to have extra ropes and a few other bits and pieces that I'll show you now. So here, as you can see, once more we've got our little man, and once more he's got a big chasm to get across. Now, what is pretty obvious here is that rope isn't going to get him across, and as you can see clearly. But if we try to make a bigger rope, then that's also not really going to work because it's too high up on the screen. So let's take a look. If we go down, as you'll remember, the R value is set at 0, which means the top part of the rope isn't moving at all. So what we're going to do, in fact, is change it to 6, and that means that this part of the rope is actually now going to behave like the 6th part of a much bigger rope, and the next part will be like the 7th part and the 8th part. So to see that in action, let's go back to the main screen and run it, and you'll see now it looks like the bottom part of a much bigger rope. So it's a really nice little trick, and for sure now with careful timing, more careful than that, here he is, and there you go, we've made it across, and whoops, careful, there we go, and we're back. So there you go. That's one way that you can solve the problem. Now, another possible solution would be to add a second rope. So what I've done here, as you'll see, is I've basically gone in and just added 3 more sprites further along, and let's see what happens. As you can see, the second rope is there and it's swinging away, but it's moving much like the previous example I showed you. Now the reason it's moving, of course, as I plunge into the depths of the chasm, is that the variable R is still increasing. So what we're effectively seeing here is the second rope is behaving as though it's the bottom part of the first rope, and it's swinging across, as you can see. So what we need to do basically is go back into the sprite initialization code and tell AGD that we have a second rope. In other words, we need to go back to 0 for param A once we get to our 4th, 5th and 6th rope sprite. So what we'll put in here is if R is greater than 3, subtract 3 from param A. In other words, once you start making the second rope, reset param A so that it has a value of 0, 1 and 2. And let's take a look at that and see how it looks. And there we go. So we can now see we have 2 ropes, and they're both static at the top, and this is actually a much easier jump. You could use the previous example if you wanted to, but obviously it's good to have the choice. Now the next thing that we want to look at is, of course, these 2 ropes are running perfectly in sync together, swinging along, and what we'd like to do maybe is look at how we can change the positions of the ropes so they don't swing completely in sync. Let's do that now. So the reason that the rope sprites are in sync, of course, is because they're starting from the same position and they're also starting from the same frame. So in order to put them out of sync, we need to change the positions and then change the frames correspondingly. So here you can see I'm moving the sprite across so that it's vertical basically, and I know that that's actually going to be frame 4. It doesn't look right there, but if I go into the initialize sprite option, and here if R greater than 3, that means it's our second rope, we'll put the command let frame 4, and that means start from frame 4. And there you go, with no problem at all. We now have 2 ropes swinging out of sync with each other, and that looks a little bit more realistic, makes it a different challenge. Let's see how we manage to get on. So there we go, no problem. And of course, oops, there we go, I've jumped off and died. So one of the other things that you should be thinking about here, of course, is as you jump from one rope to another, the code hasn't been programmed in for what happens when he hits the other rope. And if the rope is a little bit far away, your man will actually die. So let's take a look now at how we can make sure that as he goes across, he won't die when he hits another rope. So let's go back into the code here. You need to go into the event manager again, down to fell too far, and in here you can see what I've added is if collision 1 else kill, which basically means that your man won't die if he hits a rope. In fact, he'll just grab it, and that can actually allow you to create some quite interesting challenges where the player can jump, and if he times it correctly, a bit like in, say, Jet Set Willy, if you land on the rope, you survive. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to look at now is a few little experiments I've been doing with the collision detection to try to make the man look a little bit more like he's on the rope. So in the player event, I've got here recorded two variables, P, which is corresponding to the horizontal position of the bottom part of the rope, and I, which is the image. The first thing I'm doing is detecting the image, and image 1, if I equals 1, is actually the bottom part of the rope, the small curved part, which in the previous example I believe was image 2, and it's basically telling the player that he has to hit the bottom part of the rope to stay on. If he hits the rope higher up, he'll slide down the rope and then he'll grab the bottom part, which actually works quite well. The other thing here is if y is greater than p, basically looks at whether the player is to the left or to the right of the rope itself and positions the sprite accordingly. And finally here, if image is greater than 3, well, that is basically to allow the player's animation frame to reset when he hits the bottom of the platform. Okay, so here you can see now the player, as he moves across to the right, he faces to the left, and if he moves to the left, he faces to the right, and that does look a little bit better than the previous system where we had it moving according to the rope movement. And here we go, we can see the fella there, he can make the jump and he can get across. So that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing perhaps some games with some of this code. Please leave a like if you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate that, and I'll make more videos in the future. Thanks a lot, bye.